Hi, I'm Helen. Welcome to my channel. Thank you for joining me today. Today's class will be a practice to lead you up to headstand, Shirsasana. So you don't actually have to achieve headstand. It can be quite an advanced posture. It will just give you the building blocks that you need to enable you to reach this pose. And if you attain it, very good. If you don't, very good. It's all something you can build up to. And I'll be giving you some options along the way. The key to headstand is having sufficient strength and openness in the shoulders, a tight core, and it also can include some hamstring flexibility as well. So wherever you get to today, just be content, and we'll start in child's pose. So bring the knees as wide as the mat, big toes touching. Seat comes to the heels, belly between the thighs, forehead to the floor. And we'll make this an active child's pose. So the hands, the fingers will come out, tent them, lift the forearms off the mat. Shoulders are wide and away from the ears. And just breathe here, really trying to glue this seat to the heels, getting into the hips, stretching out the back. So start to do a little body scan of how you're feeling. You can start with the tops of the feet that are in touch with the mat, moving up to the shins and the knees. Maybe the sensation of the belly between the thighs and the finger pads touching the earth. Couple more breaths here. And then we'll make our way up to hands and knees. So bring the hands directly underneath the shoulders. The knees are underneath the hips. Really ground down into these palms. Tops of the feet can be flat. We'll move through a couple of rounds of cat-cow just to warm up the spine. So on an inhale, the belly dips and the chest comes through the gates of the arms. The head comes up. As you exhale, rounding the spine, really pushing the middle of the back up towards the sky. The head comes down. Inhale, reverse. Exhale, cat. Inhale to cow. And then exhale to cat. So come to a neutral spine, and we'll just work a little bit on articulating the shoulders. So you're going to keep in the arms straight and the hands directly underneath the shoulders. Just going to dip the chest down. So this isn't cow pose. We're keeping the pelvis neutral. We're just dipping the shoulder, the chest down to the floor, and the shoulder blades coming together. And then you're going to reverse it and push the shoulder blades apart. And then dip down. And then reverse. So do this a couple of times. Don't rush through it. Just waking up these shoulders and seeing how much mobility you have in them. And then come to neutral. And then on inhale, right arm lifts to the sky, and exhale, just bring it under. Right shoulder comes down, right ear comes down for thread the needle. You can tent the left fingers on the floor, or if you want to go a little bit deeper, inhale this left arm up to the sky, bring it round, see if you can grab inside the right thigh. So this just gets into the left shoulder a little bit deeper. You don't have to do this variation. Just breathe here. If you can't hook the hand, you can just rest it on the, 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 or the back, And then if you've got the hand hooked, release that back up to the sky. Plant the left hand down, we'll come out the way we went in. Right arm comes up, right hand down. Inhale, left arm up to the sky. Exhale, left arm threads through, left shoulder to the mat, left ear or cheek. Tent these right fingers, or maybe inhale the arm up to the sky. See if you can hook it inside the left thigh. Again, it doesn't matter if you do this. Just do the version that's good for you. And then if you have the hand tucked, release back up to the sky, plant the hand down, come out the way we went in, and hand comes down. So we just do a little lateral bending here to wake up the spine in all directions. So inhale, the right leg behind, keeping this level with the hips. Hips are pointing downwards, and then just move the right foot over to the left side of the mat. Look over the left shoulder at your right foot. Feeling the stretch in the right side body, in the right outer hip. And then inhale back to center. Left side, left leg extends out behind, equal weight in both hands. And then move this left foot to the outside of the right mat. Look over this right shoulder at the left foot. Breathe into the stretch, all in the left side body. And inhale back to center. And exhale, release. Moving the hands about one handprint in front, grounding them down, shoulder width apart, really grounding down into the base of the knuckles, gripping the mat with the fingertips. Shoulders are away from the ears. Tuck the toes and lift the seat to the sky for downward facing dog. So we just keep the knees bent initially, trying to get the hips up towards the sky, really lengthening out of the waist. Ears come between the triceps. Triceps are rotated under. Breathe here. So you can, if you want, start to walk the dog. Just bending one knee at a time, waking up these hamstrings. Not going too crazy. And then maybe you can start to descend the heels down towards the floor. It doesn't matter if the heels touch or if they don't. Just do what's good for you. And then from here, we'll rock forward into plank. Just do a little bit of core awakening. So holding here for 5 breaths. Keeping the weight, the shoulders over the hands. The whole of the body is engaged, the legs are active. The core is engaged, really supporting the whole of the front body. Breathe in here. And inhale, hips up to the sky. Just bring the knees down. We'll just release the wrists a little bit. Been on the hands for a little while. Let's do a few more core awakeners. So the core is key for getting up into headstand. And come back up to downward facing dog. Inhale, right leg lifts to the sky. Inhale, keeping this right leg lifted, we'll rock forward to plank, and then right knee comes to right tricep. Inhale, back to the sky. Inhale, right knee, left tricep. Back to the sky. Inhale, knee to nose. Back to the sky. Again, right tricep. Sky. Left tricep. Sky. Nose. Sky, and then down. Second side, left leg lifts. Rock forward to plank. Left knee, left tricep to the sky. Left knee, right tricep to the sky. Left knee to nose. Back up. One more time. Left tricep. Right tricep. Nose. Up to the sky and release. Come down, child's pose. Then inhale, come back up, tuck the toes, downward facing dog. Inhale, right leg lifts, right foot steps through. In a low lunge, bring this back knee down. Inhale, hands come up and interlace them over the top of the right thigh, descending into the hips, but keeping the front ribs engaged and the core engaged. Getting this stretch in the left hip flexor, shoulders are relaxed, just look forward. So imagine that you're pulling this right heel back and the left knee forward. So you've got like a scissoring action going on, really activating the inner thighs. Then from here we'll move into a hamstring stretch. So just bring the hips back, straightening this right leg. Hands can come to the floor or to blocks. And breathe here. Flex this right foot. And we'll do a couple of hamstring slides. So inhale forward to a low lunge. Exhale back. Hamstring stretch. Inhale forward. Exhale back. Inhale forward, exhale back. Now this time, see if you can sit back on your heel and come forward over this leg. So you may be up here like this. Wherever you are, be happy and breathe. Keeping the right foot flexed and active. And inhale, we'll come back up, plant the hands, tuck the toes, and then straighten this front leg. So the back foot is at 45 degrees, hips are neutral, and you're coming down over this front leg. So you may be up here, that's fine, your hands may be on blocks. But make sure these hips are neutral, so you're pulling the right hip back and the left hip forward. And descend. One more deep breath here. Then inhale, lengthen out of the waist, bend this front knee, plant the hands, Downward facing dog. Second side, left leg lifts to the sky. Exhale, left foot steps up. Back knee descends. Make sure this left knee is directly above the left ankle. And inhale, we'll come up, low lunge. So interlacing the fingers over this front leg, descending the hips. Remember, do this sort of scissoring action where you feel as if you're pulling this left heel back and the right knee forward, really activating the inner thighs. Front ribs are in, the core is engaged, shoulders are relaxed, and you're feeling the stretch all in this hip flexor here. And then we'll move through those hamstring slides. So first of all, the hips come back. We'll stay here for a moment. So flexing the left foot, tipping forward from the waist. You might be lifted on blocks. The hands might be on the floor. Breathe here. And then we'll move through those slides. So inhale, forward to low lunge, lift the head and chest. Exhale, slide back. Inhale, forward. Exhale, slide back. Inhale, forward. Exhale, back. One more time, inhale, forward. Exhale back, and this time maybe sit down on this right heel and fold over. Just being mindful where you're feeling the sensation. Hamstrings are very delicate. I tore mine once. I've actually got 3 hamstrings on each side, and I tore all 3. I heard pop, pop, pop. And they really took around 18 months to heal. It's a very long process, so I'm always really mindful around my hamstrings now. And then inhale, come forward. Plant the hands, tuck these back toes, and then lift up and straighten this front leg. So again, we're scissoring the hips. So the left hip is coming back, right hip is coming forward. This back foot is sort of at a 45-degree angle, lengthening out of the waist and then descending down. So you blocks come in handy here. Again, being very mindful about what you're feeling, not going too deep, that you cause yourself pain. Always remembering to have control. In yoga poses, they should all have 2 elements, sukha and sthira. So sukha is the ease, the sweetness, and sthira is the strength and the steadiness. So when you're in poses, try to attain a balance between the both of them. And you can even apply these 2 principles into your everyday life, whatever you deal with. Have a balance between steadiness and ease, sweetness and strength. And then bend forward into this front knee. Plant the hands, step back, downward facing dog. Breathe here. Then bring the knees down wide as the mat, and we'll come back into child. Forehead to the mat. And breathe. And come back up. So we're working into a couple of shoulder openers. So I'll face you for these. I'm just going to sit on the heels and we'll work through a couple of arm variations. So bring the arms out to a T and you're going to cross the left arm on top of the right, and we'll do Garudasana arms, eagle arms. So you can grip the back of the shoulders, and this might be your position. If it's available to you, you can bring the backs of the hands together, or maybe double wrap, lift the elbows, and just allow these arms to come forward. So you should really feel a stretch in between the shoulder blades. Feels so good. Breathe here. And inhale, push out to the side. We'll go the opposite way. So this time right arm on top and left arm underneath. Maybe your position is giving yourself a hug here, or you can do the wrap. If you're in the wrap, the elbows lift and you can pull the forearms forwards. It just gets in a little bit deeper. So I can feel this a lot more on this side when I do this. And then inhale, come up, out to the side, release, come back. And we'll move into Gomukhasana arms. So lift the left arm up and bend the elbow. Bring the right arm across and just grab the elbow and move. See if you can move it so your palm is in between the shoulder blades, palm to the back. So this might be your position here. This feels like a great stretch in the tricep, in the outer shoulder. If you want to go a bit deeper, and you can, take this right arm. You're going to internally rotate the shoulder and then fold the forearm back, and maybe you can bind like this. This isn't within your reach. Remember, you might be here, you can just grab the clothing, or if you have a belt, you can use the belt to bind. Whatever's available to you. If you're very muscly, big shoulders, big biceps, this probably isn't an attainable pose for you. Just breathe here. And then release, pushing out to the side. We'll do the other side. So this time the right arm comes up, grab hold of the elbow, give yourself a little adjustment, maybe bring the palm of the hand in between the shoulder blades. You can stay here or internally rotate this left shoulder, fold the arm up behind and maybe bind. Interlacing the fingers. If you can't do that, remember the option is always to grab clothing or use a belt. Just be content with the depth of the pose that you're in and breathe. Some days I can get into this a lot deeper than others. It depends how much shoulder work I've been doing. Say if you lift weights, you've got big, musty shoulders and arms, this can be quite a difficult pose to do. And then slowly release. And we'll do one more little shoulder opener, chest expansion. So I'll come to the side for this one. So sitting on the heels and interlace the fingers behind the back. Now, if your shoulders are very open, you may be able to bring the palms together. If not, you can have them apart like this. Opening the chest, bringing the shoulder blades together, and then exhale, come down, bring the forehead towards the knees, and lift the arms up towards the sky. Breathe in here. And inhale, come back up. Just give the neck and shoulders a little shake. A couple of shoulder rolls in one direction, maybe in the other. If it feels good, a couple of neck rolls. And we'll do one more pose before we move into into headstand. So I just gave it away, it's called dolphin pose. I don't actually know what the Sanskrit name is for this, but this is a pose that is traditionally practiced to build up to headstand. It's actually basically like downward facing dog, but you're on your elbows. So we'll come into downward facing dog. So plant the hands shoulder width apart, tuck the toes, hips come up to the sky. Feet are hip distance apart, shoulders away from the ears, heels are descending. So you may want to just move the feet back slightly, look forward between the hands, and then bring the elbows down to the floor. So you can do this both at the same time or maybe one at a time. If that's too difficult for you, you can come into dolphin from the floor. So just planting the elbows, keep the hands flat to the floor and lift the hips. Now, if this is difficult for you to do it with the palms flat to the floor, you can always interlace the fingers. Hips come up to the sky, core is active. Shoulders away from the ears and breathe here. So this is a great shoulder opener and shoulder strengthener. Try and keep the elbows shoulder width apart. And from here we'll move into a couple of dolphin planks. So I'm going to move my feet back slightly. And on an inhale, rock forward, bringing my face over my palms. And back up to the sky. So we'll do 5 of these. Inhale forward, hips back. That's 2, 3. Just breathing steadily. Try not to freak out. 4. Back up. And then 5. Hips come back up, knees come down, sit back. And just breathe here in child's pose and reconnect. So we'll move into headstand now, and I'll show you a couple of variations. Remember, don't do anything too crazy. We don't want to fling ourselves up into headstand. We want to do it with control. If we're flinging ourselves up, we're using our back, we're not using core strength, we're not really ready for it. So we always want to get there in a controlled, safe, measured way. Remember earlier I mentioned Sukha and Sthira. Try and connect with that rather than flinging the legs up in a crazy way. That's when we hurt ourselves in yoga. Normally every yoga injury is caused by one of 2 things. One is the ego, the other is poor alignment. So, and just be content with where you are. So, first of all, we'll just, and also another thing is try not to use the wall. So I'm obviously near the wall here because I've got limited space. But don't start to practice using the wall as a crutch, because it's really hard to let go of the wall. It becomes a mental crutch and maybe a physical one as well. But it does enable you to practice safely if you are near a wall. but try and wean yourself off of the wall eventually. So we'll come down from child's pose and place the elbows underneath the shoulders and grab your biceps with the opposite arms. This is your distance, a measure for where your shoulders or where your elbows need to be. So you never want the elbows wider than the shoulders because it's just a really unstable base. You want them directly underneath, and then bring the hands together and interlace the fingers. So this is your base. So from here, ground into the elbows, really activate the shoulders. So then bring the head down, the top of the crown of the head, nestle it in between this interlace. Even though you're going to be in headstand, you really want minimal weight on your head. Most of the weight will be in the forearms. From here, tuck the toes and lift the hips up. So this is where the hamstring flexibility comes in. Headstand really is a pose all about physics. So you're going to walk the feet in until the hips are over the shoulders. Maybe you can lift one leg up, keeping one toe on the floor. Maybe you can lift the other up and come into this little egg. If you're in this position, maybe stay here, or maybe you can release the legs up to the sky. So remembering to keep the shoulders away from the ears, the core is engaged, and the legs are straight. So within any inversion, headstand and handstand, try and think of ATB. You get the alignment, you get the tension in the legs and the body, and then when you have that, you get the balance, the B. And to come out of this, you can come down back into this little egg using control through the core. One toe comes down, then the other, keeping the head on the floor, knees come wide, and come back into child's pose. So that's one way of getting into headstand. So notice there was complete control. I didn't fling my legs up. Did it in a very calm and measured way. And then come back up to seated. So that version of headstand, which I think is Shirsasana A, does require openness in the shoulders. If you aren't open in the shoulders and you don't have that much strength, you can do a tripod headstand, which involves a little less openness in the shoulders. So this is the headstand you probably did as a child. So bring the hands down directly underneath the shoulders, come up onto the knees, and then you're going to bring the head down so you've got this tripod shape. The elbows are directly over the wrists. You've got your hasta bandha, your hand lock with the floor, grounding into the fingers and the base of the knuckles. Then you tuck the toes. You're in this position. Walking the feet in. Now from here, maybe you can bring one knee to the tricep. Maybe you can bring the other. So you're in this little egg again. But this time, you're using the arms more. Again, from here, maybe you come up into headstand. Engage in the shoulders and the core. Fixed gazing point. Breathe in
And then with control, you can come back down. Knees coming back onto the arms. You can stay here and release the feet to the floor. Or if you've got a lot of strength, and I'm going to give it a try. You can come up into crow pose. I can't lift it off. I just come down and come back into child. So I'm a little fatigued. Coming up into crow pose from there involves a lot of front shoulder strength. And I'll just show you one more variation, which does involve a lot of hamstring strength and a lot of core strength, but it's something you can build up to. So it is from the bound version of headstand. So just reconnect for a while. Okay, so this is where you start again from this position, interlacing the fingers, keeping the elbows quite close underneath the shoulders. Remember, when they're splaying out, once you're coming off the elbows, you'll be on the floor. You need this really stable, narrow base, in full engagement in the shoulder girdle. And then head comes down, hips come to the sky, walk in, engage in the shoulders, and then maybe you can pike up with straight legs. Trying to keep serenity in the mind. The fixed gazing point always is key in these poses. Lifting out of the shoulders, having that engagement through the core and the legs. And then to come out, keeping the legs straight, bringing the toes down. And rolling back into child. Come into embryo with the arms behind. Tops of the hands on the floor. Breathe here. So that these variations that I've shown you, you don't have to be able to achieve all of them. Just work up. Practicing dolphin really gives you the strength in the shoulders. It enables you to get into this posture. If you never get into it, don't worry. I did see this quote once. It said that if you can, he who practices headstand for 3 days, he who practices headstand for 3 hours daily reverses time. Whether that's true, I don't know. From here, we'll just make our way onto the back and come into final relaxation. If there's any pose that your body is craving right now, now is the time to do it. I'm just going to bring my knees into the chest. Maybe rock gently from side to side. Inversions are so good for us because they reverse, they release pressure on the heart, and they allow gravity to move around our circulation, the lymph drainage. But also they benefit us mentally. They allow us to see things from a different perspective when we're upside down, and this is something we can apply in life, just looking at things from a different viewpoint. Sometimes we can get so focused and blinkered in our own points of view. It's good to see things from a different perspective sometimes. And so from here, just slowly release the legs out one by one. Let the feet flop open and melt into the floor. So you lay here in Shavasana, just do a quick body scan, how you're feeling. It's so rare that we just lay somewhere and do nothing, but when we do, we should really express gratitude to ourselves for allowing us this time on the mat, when we can totally relax, surrender and let go. And just, especially after a yoga class, it gives us a chance to feel good about our bodies and feel good in the body. And if the class we've just done, like this one, involved something that can be quite challenging, not just physically but mentally, it's important to practice non-judgment and non-attachment. Whether or not you achieve the pose really is completely irrelevant. All that matters is the journey and the action that you put in and what you learned about yourself along the way. It's never ever about the final pose. It's all about the journey that we travel during our yoga practice. It's also important to remember that when you see someone that can achieve these poses, to not compare yourself to them. Comparison really is the thief of joy, and there's no point comparing yourself to someone's middle or someone's end if you're at the beginning of your journey. I used to go to classes and I'd see people flying into these wonderful arm balances, and I'd be really a harsh critic of myself because I couldn't achieve them. But those students that were able to do those postures, they've been practicing for years. A really consistent practice, showing up on the mat every day, developing a strong and healthy habit. It was ludicrous for me to expect to be able to do what they'd earned. So it's another thing to bear in mind. Never compare yourself to somebody else's middle or someone's end. From here, interlace the fingers and stretch the toes in the opposite direction. Bring the knees in one by one. Give yourself a squeeze. And then gently roll over onto the right side, keeping the eyes closed. When you're ready, push up to a comfortable seat. Keeping the spine straight, the shoulders relaxed. Bring the palms to the chest, thumbs into the sternum. Take a deep inhale, deep cleansing exhale through the mouth. And then with a soft gaze, slowly open the eyes, come back into the room. So thank you for practicing with me today. I hope you enjoyed the class. As I say, it doesn't matter if you ever get in headstand or not. The journey along the way is what matters, and I hope to see you again soon on the mat. Thank you for joining me. Bye.